All right, good morning, everybody. It is an absolutely gorgeous day up here in the mountains. So I wanted to get out of the house and number one, to try and beat the wind, but number two, to make a video that has been being asked for a few months. I've done in the past, I've done recovery gear loadouts and what all's in the Jeep, and I've done some demonstrations on like the X-Lock and things of that nature, but one thing that came out of those videos was people wanted to know what was in this pack. So I figured today was a great day to do that because we got beautiful blue sky and it's not super windy yet. So hopefully the microphone is filtering out whatever there is. So I wanted to go over this bag and we're gonna do a deep dive into it. And I'm gonna basically load it out here and show you each compartment one by one. Then we'll put things back in there. So I'll chop the video up accordingly. And then at the end of the video, we'll go over everything else that goes into the Jeep for supplemental gear when it's wintertime. Because this pack is designed to support me for 72 hours vehicle-based, since we're an off-road recovery team that's vehicle-based. And then I have some supplemental gear that I also bring along. So let's get into it. All right, so first and foremost, you are going to want to tailor your pack to your specific needs. And this pack is tailored to me as an individual. I have a food allergy that is not negotiable, that I cannot fib on it in the slightest. So just throwing crackers and things of that nature into this pack is a no-go. So we'll go into, let's go into this very front compartment here first. And well, first off, we actually should show you, you got to have your funny little morale patch. You can fill in the blank there. This bag is designed for me to un-F myself if the situation warrants it. So right off the bat, we have just a little thermometer here. You never know when that could come in handy to understand exactly how cold it is outside, but sometimes it's good to know. So right here at the very front of the pack, when we open this baby up, we see right off the bat we've got some gloves, and we have, this is I think about 50 feet of the 550 paracord, a little collapsible bowl. This can be used for all kinds of things, grabbing water, if you need to maybe filter out some murky water or let some murky water settle before you filter it, oatmeal, dinners, things of that nature. There's nothing else loose right down here, but we have probably one of my favorite tools that I haven't used in forever. We have a UTM Corner Ruler, and this is great for pinpointing exactly where you are on maps, and I have a different one for just a different map scale. But this comes in handy for certain maps, which are actually in these pouches right here. And these maps are tailored to the areas that we frequent. Idaho Springs, there's a ton of off-road recoveries down there in Idaho Springs area. I'm not going to get this all the way out, but on these maps, they have the blue lines, which correlate to that UTM Corner Ruler that I had out just a second ago. Let's get that guy back down in there. And then this other compartment is also maps, or a map, I should say. And this will be Winter Park area. And again, this is all that I-70 North Corridor. These are areas that I'm not overly familiar with because I don't frequent them nearly as much. But one of the first calls that I did that had me out to the very wee hours of the morning was down in Idaho Springs. So we also have some snacks in here, and I am actually due to cycle these out. Obviously, as food expires, you can use it past its use-by date. But these are probably actually getting to the point now to where they're stale. So every spring I go through and check the pack and make sure that the food's not too old. But yeah, this stuff is definitely to the point where it's going to need to be recycled out. Flashlight, I put the batteries in backwards so that way they can't, this light can't accidentally turn on Writing utensils, you know, you just never know if you need to write stuff down. That also comes into first aid preparedness as well, if you have to apply tourniquets. That compartment is empty. This compartment has a base plate compass in it. Great for finding your compass headings and bearings. And I also have a Write in the Rain notebook. So those markers come in handy for that if you need to make notes. I've never written anything in this because I haven't been out in the field in a situation where I've needed that. So there's the front compartment. Whoops, let me put this stuff back in here. All right, I changed the angle a little bit just in case my head was getting chopped off there. I wanted to kind of keep it mixed up. So this top compartment is actually empty. I would use it more for like storing trash or things of that nature, but I've got some Gatorades in here. Electrolytes are extremely good to have if you need to be out, you know, exerting yourself, or if maybe we're on an off-road recovery where we're exerting ourselves a little too much, and that stuff can kind of sneak up on you. So carabiners, they come in handy for tying things down. You just never know. And of course we got the little Fiskars X7 Hatchet. This thing is a lifesaver, literally. And we also have right here in the very front, and I'll unclip this a little bit. So spare Gore-Tex Raincoat. I usually do have rain gear in the Jeep, but sometimes, you know, you need some extra or whatnot. This Gore-Tex coat my parents bought for me when I was like 16 or 17 years old, and it still works great. I wash it with the special tech wash that rejuvenates the water repellent, and it has worked beautifully over all of these years. So let's go to side compartments. This pack, which I didn't mention, is a Rush 72, and it's got a lot of room in it. I have two 64-ounce Clean Canteens. The reason why I went with stainless steel was just the cleanliness factor. Once you've sterilized these, no sunlight can get in here and kind of mess with the water. So I have two of these in this pack, one on the left side and one on the right side. So right there. So basically I've got a gallon of water in this pack. Let's go into, I'm gonna have to unbuckle this, and let's take this off. Let's get into the main compartment. We'll show you what's in the main compartment. So this is where it gets really fun. And I'm gonna try and be real careful to not spill all this out on the ground. So inside the main compartment, and I'll move the camera around so you can see this as well. Eating utensil. In fact, let's take you off the tripod and let's show you what we got going on here. So cup, again, mix an electrolyte drink. So you don't have to mess up your Nalgene. So you've got a cup, duct tape. Duct tape, I mean, fixes everything. You never know when you're gonna need duct tape. Reflective blanket. So I've had this forever and ever and ever. Could come in handy to line the inside of the windows of the Jeep, or line you. And then we get into food. Lots of food in here. Again, food allergy. My choices are severely limited. And again, some of this stuff, we are coming up on replacement cycles. So you can see right there, gluten-free. Yes, I am celiac. If you couldn't figure that out when I said I couldn't have crackers. Let's see, there's dates on some of the, where's this dates on this stuff? Well, either way, it's probably getting close to being ready to be cycled out. So just general, you know, carbohydrates for exertion. Tuna, tuna's awesome. That actually is coming up for replacement at the end of the month. That says February of 22. So again, you know, this stuff's going to be good past its use by date, so I'm not like overly concerned about it. But beef jerky, tons and tons of beef jerky. This is also past its date, but again, I'm sure it's probably fine. I do need to just go through and replace this. I should do a better job of cycling this out and eating this stuff before it expires, but this is the emergency like SHTF pack. So chicken fajita bowl, safe for me to consume. It's one of the dinners. And of course, you know, that's never going to expire. 2047, good Lord. You know, more food here. This is a breakfast, excuse me. So also good till 2047. And we have another dinner, Santa Fe style rice with chicken. It's one of my favorites. All this stuff is safe for me. Says right there. Now it is, you know, made on shared processing equipment, but I've never had a problem with that. So that is actually good until 24. And then we have another breakfast. So while I call this a 72-hour bag, it's a 72-hour bag while ration limiting. So we also have clothing, spare wool socks, spare underwear, because, you know, you got to have that stuff. And we have spare t-shirts. So I believe there's 2 in here. Again, 3-day bag. You're not going to need to change your clothes every day. The rain pants, the bottom Gore-Tex pants are right here. And down inside of this compartment, we have even more stuff. Whistle. There's earplugs in here in case for some reason you need to do something loud. Fire starter. Lots of fire starting stuff. Hurricane matches or what they call stormproof matches. Those are awesome. We got hand sanitizer, we got toothpaste, we got a toothbrush, we got floss. This is more for if we get out in the field and I get stuck in a motel room. There's some wilderness wash. That's that biodegradable soap that doesn't like kill stuff in the streams. And then we have the, just in case you get into a really sticky situation and you need to be paying cash for something, I usually keep about $100 cash in the pack. Plastic works almost everywhere, but cash is king when you really get into sticky situations. So underneath the there's this little pouch down here that has this little bungee on it. That's just the shower stuff, like a towel. So there's a trash bag way down in there and a towel and the washcloth. So again, you know, I set this bag up for, it's a 72-hour bag, but it's also a 72-hour bag for needing to like overnight in a hotel room, things of that nature. So let me put all this stuff back and then we'll switch over to this side of the bag and show you what's in these compartments. All right, I elected to put you back on the tripod because we're getting into some stuff here that's a lot smaller. So I figured I'd sit down and unzip compartments and show you. So I have backpacking food in here, which requires you to boil water to consume. So of course, you've got to have a jet boil. And this is a brand new fuel can, never been used. If I do end up using this in the field, I'll weigh it and make sure that I didn't use too much, and I'll just cycle it out, put this in my home stash for emergency preparedness and other just general camping. Like if I go on a Boy Scout camping trip, I want to have some like hot cocoa or something. So I always keep the brand spanking new fuel can in there. But I have used this. I've used this on deployments where we were out way late and I needed to make dinner. So jet boil fits absolutely beautifully in that bottom zipper compartment of the Rush 72 bag. So let's get into the center pouch here. And this is where we get into some water purification. So we've got the good old Life Straw. And again, this isn't, you know, one of those super high-end commercial water filters. This is the emergency. I need to fill a bottle out of the stream like right now. So water purification, you could also boil it, but that wastes a tremendous amount of fuel, obviously. So water purification. We have a little candle lantern. This I have had since I was probably 12 years old, and I absolutely love this thing. It's from Eastern Mountain Sports, which is no more in Colorado. Great outdoor gear company. But this candle has about 50% of its life left. But you crack this baby off and light that inside the Jeep and just set it somewhere or hang it, and the amount of heat that comes off of this is actually pretty impressive. It would be the difference between freezing to death and being uncomfortable. And I also have other stuff in this Jeep that we're going to get to address the uncomfortable factor. So there is a candle in here. I also have a really old pair of binoculars, and these are, the case is actually like disintegrating. That's how old it is. So just some little Nikons. You never know when you need to, you know, maybe scope for some grouse or turkeys. We passed some turkeys on the way up here. Again, we're talking, you know, SHTF survival situation here. So little binoculars. You just never know when there's going to come in handy. Look at that. That case is just puking out stuff all over me. While I always have toilet paper in the Jeep, I also have it in the bag, because if you got into a situation where you ultimately need to hike out, well, you know, you need to do some business. So it's just a fact of life. We also have emergency sunscreen, emergency bug spray. So this stuff, you do actually need to look at your sunscreen. It is expired. It does lose a little bit of its potency, but it'll still work. This stuff expired at very late 2019. So it's a few years past its use date, but it would still work for sunscreen. And out here in the wintertime, I can't take my sunglasses off right now because my eyes would literally, the sun is so bright. So sunscreen on your face in the wintertime, that could be really important. That is it for the middle compartment here. Let's go up to the top compartment, which has a little bit more, you know, fire-related stuff in it. So matches, good old strike-on box matches. Lighter, you know, you need a lighter. I don't know if you can see that actually lit, but it did light. So lighter, I actually have two lighters in here. We have another emergency candle, and this is kind of one of those one-time use things. If you have to crack this baby off in here to stay warm, you're going to get 6 hours out of it, and that's about it. So super cheap. You know, this stuff's not real, not crazy by any means. And then we got a little tree saw. So if you needed to cut a little between that and the hatchet, cut little limbs and stuff up for making a fire, this would be a great way to do that. So just a little cheap Chinese stainless saw. I don't know, it might break when you actually go to use it, but at least it's in here. The hatchet is not going to break, so I'm really not concerned about having a cheap China knife in here. Let's see, I believe that is it for this. Yeah, that's it for this bag. So there are obviously some things that are not in here. And you noticed I didn't have, let me get all this zipped up and recontained in here, since this is actually a duty deployment bag. We'll get her all cinched back up and locked down here, and then we'll carry on. So all right, so that's the 72-hour bag. Now, like I said, this is tailored to me surviving in this vehicle or my truck. If the truck ends up on a deployment, it has similar recovery gear set up, but this pack and the supplemental gear comes with. So let me grab, I'm going to put this in the mid seat here, and I'm going to grab the other gear and show you, because obviously there's some things missing, and we'll go over what's in the other packs. One of the big things that was obviously not in the 72-hour pack was some form of sleeping bag. Now, I'm not going to get this out, but this is one of the military sleep systems. I've never actually had to spend the night in this, but I did crawl inside of the 3 layers at the house, and I have no doubt that inside of this vehicle, for sure, you can go well below the rating of this. I believe these things are good to, I think they're good to like -10 or something like that. It might be even colder than that if you use all 3 bags. But essentially, you have a liner bag, and then you have the thicker actual like loft bag, and then you have that bivy waterproof sack that goes on top. And all 3 are in here. This does go with me on every org mission. And every time I'm out solo by myself in the mountains, like I am today. Now, granted, this is extremely low risk because Larimer County Road 44 is 50 feet that way, and it's plowed and maintained. So I am not going to need this today. There's going to be people up here all day screwing around, making noise, and the risk and need for this is going to be almost none. But this would keep you alive if you ended up needing to spend the night in your vehicle and ran it out of gas, etc. So we have sleeping bag. Now, since it is winter time, I have a supplemental pack because there was not really much warm gear in the Rush 72 pack. And that's because in the summertime in Colorado, you don't need it. If you were at like 14,000 feet, yeah, it could probably drop into the 30s and 40s at any time of year, but we don't operate up there, and I don't four-wheel up there because there's not very many roads that take you that high that I frequent. There's plenty of roads in Colorado that do that, but we're not doing them every trip. So inside of this bag, and this is just an old pack that I've had. It's the REI Hitchhiker. I mean, this is all stretched out and just this is ruined. This part doesn't work anymore, but I have had this pack again since I was like in high school. So it's all just gear that was in my basement that I went, you know, I'm gonna turn this into a supplemental cold weather pack. So in here, we have yet another waterproof shell layer. This is my old jacket that a very, very good friend of mine got me when I did volunteer photography for Love and Fire. This jacket kept me nice and warm and dry during the big Thompson flood of 2013. So this is also high vis at the bottom. I'm not going to unroll that just because it takes a little while to roll it up. But down here in the front of this, we have bibs. These are just an old set of bibs that my dad gave me many, many years ago. They're great. I mean, they are cotton, but in the instance of needing to stay warm, these will work just fine and dandy. And then we also have a spare Polar Fleece jacket, just a Polar Fleece zip up, like I'm wearing right now. This is just one of my older ones that had started to wear down a little bit, so I took it out of service and put it into the emergency pack before I just completely destroyed it and was wearing holes in it. So there is your front compartment in the cold weather pack. Now let's show you what I have in the back part here. Spare beanie cap, and inside of there we have yet another spare beanie cap. This one is not windproof. This is just a little insulating layer, and a couple of here's the windproof one, a legit like OR windproof one, and then here's one of my old snowmobiling masks to keep your neck and nose warm, and it's kind of worn out. It's you know, I used that snowmobiling for 10 years with my dad, and I kind of wore that out. So that ended up in the emergency pack. So if we got out in the field and the wind was just screaming, like this hat right here is also windproof, so I've got some redundancy. Maybe you get this one really wet or something, and you need to switch over. And this one has also got a wind stop layer in it. This is the old Northern Colorado Rescue hat. That was a startup SAR team that ultimately couldn't survive in Northern Colorado. It was super, super fun to be on, but it just didn't work out. So we also have some spare gloves. And again, this is all stuff that I've had over the years. I used these when I was a kid in scouting. And you may notice the fingers got some rips on it. So this was all stuff that I had for an emergency situation. This would be great. I usually have all this stuff with me anyway if I know we're going out in the field on cold weather recovery. I'm going to bring my usual gloves anyway. Those don't go in the 72-hour pack, but these are the emergency backups in case like mine just get completely soaked and for some reason stop being waterproof on the Gore-Tex. Spare long underwear. It's a long underwear top, long underwear bottom. Again, I've had these since I was in high school, and I have not changed my size one bit since I was in high school, so I have that benefit. So there is the supplemental cold weather pack, and again, this just goes and rides around with me when we get into winter off-road recoveries, or if I'm going to go out for a day by myself. So before we close this out, whoops, I forgot to put, I wondered why that zipped up so easy. All right, so let's go over some of the other basic loadout gear that I've got here for missions and personal trips. Obviously, a good first aid kit is paramount to anything. In fact, I'll pull that down here in a second. But I have a high lift jack mounted up here on the rear roll bar. And of course, you gotta have your beer koozies. So these came all the way from Australia when I ordered a t-shirt from the 4-wheel drive action guys. But high lift jack, I have honestly never had to use that for me. We have had to use them on recoveries before, but other people had got theirs out so fast that I didn't have to go through the time to unbolt this. It's just one bolt right there, and I've got a toolkit right here, and then it pops right out. But where's my magnets? There they are. So high lift jack, extremely valuable tool. That towel is just there to keep this from rattling really, really loud on the bumpy roads. But let's pull this first aid kit down. So this is from Outer Limit Supply. They're absolutely fantastic, local company to Colorado. They're a great supporter of Colorado 4x4 Rescue and Recovery. And they do give us a slight discount on these, which makes it great. But I mean, look at all the stuff that's in here. I'm not going to unpack all of this because it would be very difficult to get it all back in here. But I have added a couple things. The sucking chest wound hyphen vent. Whoops. Because, you know, society's a little weird right now. And God forbid you had to deal with a gunshot wound. But gauze pads, gloves, I mean, there's burn cream, you got bandages, there's antiseptic wipes, tourniquet. Now, I don't have this tourniquet staged for rapid access, and I need to fix that. There's a way that you can wrap these up that when you undo it, it's ready to rock and roll. And that's my bad. I haven't staged this one to do that yet. Eye wash, I just replaced this because actually last year on a Boy Scout camping trip, I took the Jeep because the truck was down for some service work, and kid got a bunch of junk in his eyes, and for some reason our eye wash in the trailer first aid kit for the Scout troop was missing. So I had to bust mine out, and that saved us a trip to urgent care. But this just clips up here on a magnet. And I'll try and tip the camera up. It's going to probably fall over. Hopefully you can see that. So this literally just magnets up here, and boom, it's on. It cannot come off. Like there, you have to pull the release tab up top. I was going to mount this upside down, and the reason why I didn't was just in case for some reason I bumped these latches. I didn't want this to clamshell open and barf out all the contents right here on the ground. So I figured, you know, that would probably be better. And fire extinguisher. Now, kind of controversial that I have it clear back here in the back of the Jeep. But if for some reason this thing was to catch on fire, which I can't imagine that would ever happen, I'm going to grab my survival gear first before I grab the fire extinguisher. That's just my mindset that, you know, I'm going to save my stuff that's going to keep me alive before I'm going to worry about trying to put a vehicle fire out. Now, switching into personal preferences here for emergency preparedness and survival. Let's say something's wrong with your food and you needed to look for local game. Like I said, I passed some turkeys on the way up here. There's pheasants and grouse, the sage grouse running around. I have actually shot sage grouse before in season. It wasn't like illegal or anything. I renew my small game every year, so I have a perpetual small game license. And it's delicious. I mean, so you need a means to have the advantage in survival situation, and you can pick whatever poison you want, but I pick a couple of different firearms for that I usually have on me. And this is me personally. This isn't like off-road recovery stuff. This is emergency preparedness in general. So I usually have something on me, whether it's concealed or open carry, depending on the season. And also, just personally, I carry other stuff with me to kind of ensure you can figure out on your own what's in there. So I also have emergency backup water. That hasn't been cycled out in a while. But aside from the gallon of water in the pack, there's 2 more quarts in the Jeep. Got my headlamp there. And I also usually carry, for a standard, day trip loadout, 4 more quarts of water. And depending on if there's somebody with me or not, depends on where these are. Sometimes they're in the very back, sometimes they're in my fridge. But there's also 4 more quarts of water right there. So let's close this out because it's getting kind of long. But I also thought, it would be really informational to have all this info. So, if you're going to put together a 72-hour pack, I didn't have to spend very much money to do that because I had a lot of this gear. I've been in scouting since I was like 4.5, 5 years old, and basically had stopped growing by the time I turned 18, 19. So a lot of the stuff that I put in these packs, was gear that I already had. I had the candle lantern, I had the emergency candle. I had to buy the backpacking food because obviously I consume that as I go backpacking. But, it doesn't cost a whole lot to have just a basic level of preparedness for like a bug out bag, or whatever you want to call it, a 72-hour pack. I label that a 72-hour pack, but in reality, in high calorie, high energy burning environment of actually having to hike out for 10, 20 miles, that's a 2-day bag. But sitting here stuck in a vehicle, it's probably more like a 4-day bag because you don't need 3,000 calories a day if you're not moving. You know what I mean? So I hope this was informational for you. I'd like to know down in the comments, what do you think, what's possibly missing in that bag? I've got fire starter, I've got tools, always on me, no matter what. I always have pocket knives on me. So I don't have a pocket knife in that bag because I literally would feel like I was walking outside naked if I didn't have a pocket knife on me. What do you think I'm missing in there? I'm curious. Put it down in the comments and I'll absolutely read those comments and respond, and let's engage a little bit and see what you think. What else should go in the Jeep? I've got my standard recovery gear, tire chains, chair. This is kind of like the Bugout van, but I also have that cool power wagon that I don't know what would be more capable. The Jeep's more fuel efficient, but the truck has a way bigger gas tank. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I wanted to get out of the house, breathe some fresh air, and kind of just show you what I got in here. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you got any questions, let me know. Have a great weekend.